All right, welcome to the Labstream AI podcast. We have Susan Hunt, the CEO of Surge Growth, joining us today. Susan's a seasoned executive from Salesforce and Nuance, growing sales teams and revenues off the charts. It's an honor to have you and a pleasure today. How are you, and can you share a bit about your role and how it fits into the bigger picture at Surge Growth?
Sure. First of all, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate that. I'm always excited to talk to podcasters. So looking forward to our conversation. I'm sure it'll be great. I actually am a long-term sales executive in the tech space. I've worked for companies like Nuance, Salesforce, LivePerson, among others. I've built high-performance sales teams for years and years and years that sell high-tech into the enterprise space, all verticals, telco, finance, travel, retail, all of the verticals. And I just have a very long career in that. And 2 years ago, I started my own consulting company to kind of help startups with, creating their own sales force, because it's one of the hardest things that a tech CEO, especially a technical tech CEO, has to do. And it's oftentimes the place where you make big, expensive mistakes. So I'm there to try to guide them earlier so that they don't do that.
Yeah, no, I saw you had some pretty big transactions under your belt in the telco space. I want to say billions of dollars. I was hesitant to throw that out there, but that's a real thing. So that's exciting. What does a typical day look like for you right now?
Well, it's really interesting, and it depends on how many customers I actually have. I just ended a 6-month engagement where I was brought into a company that was a small tech company out of New Zealand that immediately got acquired by a much bigger tech company in San Francisco, and they turned around and let go of their CRO within 2 weeks of me getting there. So all of a sudden I was kind of in the middle of going from this small company, which was kind of an easy job, to dealing with 2 CEOs, and then I had a third client. So for a day-to-day perspective, I can go from speaking about one product with one CEO to another, and managing different sales teams doing different types of deals in different verticals all in one day. So it's a lot to keep on top of, but I'm pretty good at multitasking, so I really enjoy that kind of work.
Yeah, change management seems to be a big challenge in the space, and being able to keep the processes and policies organized. What do you see as the biggest mistakes you see with early stage enterprise technology sales teams that make?
So they tend to hire people that don't really understand their space or don't understand the vertical that they're selling into. And that really is an expensive mistake. It's scary to hire someone seasoned, and it's also really difficult to get someone seasoned to come in at an early stage, because it's a big risk in a career. I mean, there are times when there's a massive payoff, but if a true sales executive is working in a really established company and making money and has happy customers, then they will tend to continue down that path rather than taking a massive risk. So for the technical CEO specifically, hiring someone that is less experienced, has fewer contacts in the vertical that you're interested, and probably potentially very little experience in the product that they're selling, it is just a very costly mistake. So what I try to do is I try to come in and get more seasoned people who have worked with me in the past. Many of them trust my thought process when it comes to what looks like the beginning of a good company with a good product and a good potential, and they have a much better shot of coming in. It's a little bit more costly to do it that way. It's probably actually a lot more costly to do it that way, but in the long run, it's far more cost effective because you're not turning over sales teams, which is by far the most expensive mistake a sales leader can make.
Absolutely. Right. So you would rather take more time and have a deeper filtration process to make sure you vetted this guy right. So when you make the investment into their, training or, getting them into the market, they're going to stay for the long run.
And also just having, a lot of really good salespeople in enterprise that are vertically focused have a really good following of customers that they may have brought different products to throughout their career. So there are some that are really considered trusted advocates for the customer, and they're trusted to bring in new technology. So what that does is it collapses the time frame. If you're a brand new CEO with a brand new piece of tech that might really be innovative, but you can't get the meetings with the right people, or when you do get the meetings, they don't know who you are, they don't trust you, you're going to have a much longer tail to getting a deal than if you have a salesperson that knows how to manage through the organization, knows how to do the contracting, knows the type of ROI that companies are looking for in advance, knows the technical teams and the business leaders that make the final decision. You're going to move a deal along much quicker. And they'll also know the triggers that will give that customer security if you're a smaller company that has a lot of risk involved in it. So they can just maneuver a deal much more effectively, I think, because they've done it, some of them hundreds of times with the same customers through a 20-year career, right?
Yeah, so obviously customers and clients are trusting you for this and taking the risk to take more time to get the runway longer, really. I mean, that's at the end of the game.
Especially right now with how fast technology is moving, it's really hard for them to ignore all of the startups at this point. They used to be able to securely just ignore that, right? Like, okay, come to us when you're selling $100 million or whatever. But tech is moving so fast right now that they can't just depend on Microsoft to figure it out, or AWS to figure it out, or these big, comfortable companies to figure things out. There's innovation, especially in the AI space, which I spend a lot of time in, happening every single day at a speed that I've never ever seen before. So they don't really want to miss those opportunities to integrate those technologies, or at least look at those technologies before making big decisions, because as soon as you make the big commitment, the big decision, they're kind of stuck for a few years. So they want to make sure that they're doing the right thing at the beginning. So more opportunity now with smaller companies, for these companies to do really amazing things with tech that they otherwise maybe would not have considered in the past.
So you mentioned AI. How has AI changed the way sales teams are built, trained, or managed? I know you had that experience at, I think it was ASAP?
I have it across my whole career. I mean, speech recognition, which was Nuance, it was the original AI. So LivePerson they all have had AI. They all were automation organizations. Their first goal was to automate things that people didn't want to do, and that's really kind of the definition of what AI is. So that question has a lot of parts to it. So as far as sales are concerned, the salespeople are being given so many great tools now, things that everybody had to do manually before, from writing differently, from working in Salesforce to track their deals and their opportunities differently. There's just a million different opportunities for the way they work to be different, which is great. It's really great. From a hiring perspective, there are technologies that one of my good friends who's worked for me for years works for a company that basically automates compensation plans, which I think is an amazing thing. We used to have to write those by hand, figure them out by hand, and now you can use technology, AI technology, to do that, amongst other things. One of the things that I love to do if I'm going in to review a bigger sales organization is I use AI and technology to do a DISC assessment and a couple of other surveys on the team to figure out a few things. What is the archetype of the sales organization, which is often very wrong for the type of technology that they're selling. And, I'll hear customers say, I don't know what's wrong with our salespeople. We aren't getting any deals. And I'll look at who they are individually, and I'll find that they have an entire group of highly technical salespeople when something completely different is called for in their product set. So this is a good way to kind of look at things and address that problem pretty quickly. And I could do the same thing by interviewing everyone for an hour, or I could send out this survey and have the data back through AI, and have a really good idea of individual capabilities very, very quickly. And then you can place the people in the right spot that they may or may not be in at the time. So I do that, and then the other survey that I like to do is I like to understand what the managers think are the serious problems within the organization, and the salespeople think are immediate serious problems within the organization, and the things that they think they do well and the things that they think they do poorly. They may have communicated this to their upper management multiple times, but when it's put in in diagrams, in analysts in presentations and brought to them by a consultant with advice on how to correct a lot of these things. Things get corrected within the organization that may have gotten ignored previously. You know, once they hire a consultant, there's something generally broke somewhere that they're paying to have fixed. So they are more apt to listen than maybe just a bunch of salespeople complaining about certain things. And I can say, look, you have this problem with your sales organization that can be corrected by doing this, this, and this. You have this problem within your operations, which is causing this flow down problem with your sales organization. If you fix this, it'll stop that. So, you know, really solid advice. And so those are some of the ways that we're using AI right now across the board.
Yeah, personalities is really a big thing in business, and being able to manage those personalities is key to success. So you really have a way to audit those personalities. Sometimes you may have people that are too tech heavy, right? That are overcompensating on the tech side when really they need to simplify it and make it easy to communicate in layman's terms. So I really believe in what you're saying as far as, you know, traits. So what traits or strategies separate a high performing team from the average ones today?
So, I mean, a lot of it is the thing that I'm concerned about right now is when myself and a lot of my colleagues were coming up, we were given training, sales training, not product training, actual sales training programs through our employers. Like, I started my career at Motorola, which at the time was the high-tech company in the country. I have friends that went through Siemens and IBM, and all of us had like really substantial sales training, you know, how to negotiate, how to put together a deal, how to move a deal along step by step by step, how to deal with, you know, people that are throwing different problems at you all the time, you know, so how to become a solution seller. That isn't really out there anymore, without having to actually contract someone to show you a piece of all of that. And that's concerning to me, because what that means is we have a lot of product salespeople that go out there and just talk about bits and bytes, product features, and that's not really what you need when you're working with an enterprise company. You need to be able to connect the dots. You need to be able to establish relationships, high, medium, and low. And if you don't have the selling skills and the relationship skills to do that, you're going to be pigeonholed into maybe the technical organization only, or somewhere that you feel comfortable as a salesperson, and that won't be enough to do like a broad selling strategy across a large organization, which, you know, take a JP Morgan Chase or whatever. Depending on what you're selling, there may be 100 different places that you can sell your product. But the question is, how are you able to maneuver across that organization so they all know what's going on? Because they're typically very siloed in their buying, you know. So you need to have those skills. And if you're not taught those skills, it's kind of hard to just figure it out. And what it means is that we don't have as many young directors, you know, managing sales organizations as we once did, because it's taking so much longer to actually get training. Even with all of the advancements, these are personal skills that you have to acquire, and you can't acquire them through AI yet. You may be able to in another 6 months or something, I'm not sure. But they're personality skills and they're soft skills, and you need to have them to be able to negotiate effectively and to do the right thing for your customers and make sure that they're getting what they need. Because if you're working with a JP Morgan Chase or a Verizon or whoever it is, you need to think in terms of kind of forever. So you can't just dump a product on them and take off and expect to ever be able to sell to them again. You know, the good thing about these kind of customers is if you sell to them and you do the right thing, you're generally rewarded with more business, which should be the goal. So, right. You know, that takes a certain amount of skill to be able to do that. And that's taught skill. It's not something most people just inherently know how to do. And you can get it over, you know, 20 years of experience. But I think that's a little unfortunate that we're not able to provide that to people the way that we used to provide it.
Yeah, you would think solution selling, I've heard the term a lot, and you know, product market fit is really important in understanding the problems. I think it's fascinating to me that today, after all these years of talking about solution selling and everyone does it, they're not doing it. So they're missing the mark, and you're not going to be able to sell, pigeoning yourself into a product sale.
Yeah.
So you're saying
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
It's just the difference between being an outstanding salesperson and being a meh salesperson, an average salesperson.
Right. Well, you make superstars. I see that in your scale up, the way you do it, and how you grow these hyper growth teams, and really, I think that's what differentiates you, and that's what was intriguing to me is being able to understand, and really with that personality assessment you want to call it, maybe it's an audit, what have you, of your sales team to say, hey, look, this guy might be a better sales engineer, and pair him with a sales guy who's more on the biz dev side, and to be able to go through that and say, hey, I'm going to silo these people here and there. That's a big advantage that you bring to companies, because sometimes the CEO's he's worried about other things. He's hoping people can sell like him, but nobody's like him. And your job is really to replicate him at a lower level and on a higher iteration basis.
Yeah. And I also, if you don't have a CEO who's really sales orientated, technical. I work with a lot of technical CEOs who do a pretty good job of selling, by the way, but managing a sales team is different in that you really need somebody that can, just go into Salesforce and say, hey, these 20 deals are not happening the way that that they've told you they're going to happen. And they're basing their future on it. They're going to their board, they're going out to investors, and they're saying, we're going to get this deal, this deal, this deal. And I'll look at it and go, I'm not sure you're going to get that in the time frame that you think you're going to get that, but here are some things that maybe we can do to speed it along. So they need like a source of truth as well that they may not necessarily get from the salespeople, because the salespeople are motivated to be hanging on to their jobs and want to have as much stuff in the pipe as they possibly can at all times. And some are not great at the hygiene of the app either. So that's another challenge.
True. Nobody's good at following up with a CRM. Can you? This is interesting. Can you share a time when you pivot in the sales strategy made a measurable difference? Because it sounds like that's really what you're able to recognize and say, hey, we need to move this way because you're dreaming. You're in la la land over here, man.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of different ways that I have pivoted a sales strategy, some of them based on product changes, some of them based on microeconomics, some of them based on just a company wanting to do a different thing at a different time, and some of them based on having the wrong sales organization at the wrong time. So, and also having a commercial sales organization with which what you need is an enterprise sales organization. This happens a lot. People think that they're going to go in and do a lot of deals. They'll hire a lot of salespeople to do a lot of deals at a lower level, when really what they need is a small group of talented enterprise people to do bigger deals at a higher level. But that tends to scare new companies, new founders. Like, they think, oh, well, who are we to go in and sell to a big enterprise? We're brand new. Well, who you are is a company that's got a solution that will really help these enterprise. And if you have the right people representing that, you're going to be much better off than just, dialing for dollars in a commercial sale with a commercial sales organization, which is going to get you, $5,000 deals when you could be doing $250,000 deals instead in basically, pretty much the same amount of time. So it's an example of working smarter, not harder. Like, the commercial stuff is working harder. The enterprise stuff is hard work, but it's also got a massive payoff when you finally, close a deal. So
go small, go small.
Yeah, that's a pretty common pivot that I recommend. And it's more about fear than reality. They figure, well, we'll just work on these small deals instead of competing with the big guys. But if you have the right tech, you should definitely go for the big guys. Absolutely. You've got to have the right tech, though.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's all about precision firing versus, rapid fire across a field, yes. Having that targeted strategy. But that reverts back to what you said, is finding the right people and having the right people on the bus and getting through where that personality is. Business is all personality business, right? It's managing those personalities, making sure they fall in line, and then going after your target, which you clearly have hit your marks every time. What advice?
No, not every time. Not every time.
Well, so far from what I've seen. Well, that's fair. Nothing's perfect, right? Nobody wins every time, but entrepreneurs, much like yourself, you'll have more losses than wins, but those wins outweigh those losses, right? And
they definitely do, and you learn a lot from the losses. You don't learn much from the wins, except for that you're happy for 5 seconds, and then it's on to the next one, right?
Right?
And now
What
it's
advice?
onto the
Tell me.
deployment, which is the tricky
I know.
stuff.
Oh gosh, that's not fun. That's for the other teams. That's for the back office and operations. I think I'm with you on the front end more. Engaging with customers and finding out what their problems are. What advice would you give founders trying to scale their first tech sales team?
Don't do it alone. Unless you really know what you're doing, do not do it alone. Absolutely not. And do not do it with just a headhunter. Like, pay the money to get the guidance, to have the help you need to hire the right team, to set it up properly. Don't hire your buddies, which a lot of them do, believe it or not. They're like, oh, well, I'll just have this guy do sales. Don't do it alone, because you need marketing and you need sales to kind of come together cohesively. And then you need outbound comms that also helps you along in your market. A good comms person can get you articles, origin story articles, can get you Fast Tech 100, can get you like a lot of different things that will give you notoriety. But hire people that are going to actually move the ball for you, in the first, say, year, instead of going through that whole year paying someone that really doesn't understand the strategy or what they're doing because they're a little bit cheaper. Yeah, definitely. And then you really have to have not a sales first environment, but a sales equal environment, because I think some of the engineering companies make the mistake that they want to keep them engineering company like for good. I mean, this is like something that Google did for a really long time, and they had a really hard time attracting the top people in the field to sell because it was such an engineering environment. They got the best engineers for sure. They didn't get the best salespeople until like the last 5 years they've started actually turning that ship a little bit. So you have to have like an equal environment so that the salespeople feel valued as well. The salespeople feel valued and the engineers feel valued equally, then you're going to have a really successful company. If it's really unbalanced in either way, you're going to struggle. It's not impossible to do, but you'll struggle more.
No, I love that. Don't do it alone, right? I mean, together, everyone achieves more. I really firmly believe in that. And I think, that's great. And thank you for sharing these insights because I think a lot of people, they, like you said, they'll go to their friend because they trust them, but they need to get outside of their comfort zone and stretch themselves and spend the extra dollar to get the right people, because you get what you pay for at the end of the day.
That's exactly true. And salespeople, professional salespeople are professional salespeople. So hire the professionals. It's, don't assume that just anybody can do it because it's just sales, because that's where they really make their mistake, assuming that it's just sales so anybody can do it. It seems easy. It's made to look easy by professional salespeople, but we all know it's anything but easy. It is a grind. It is a day-to-day knife fight, and you have to be really good at it in order to make big deals happen.
Can you make it easy for our listeners to find you online, maybe on LinkedIn or on the web? How can they find Surge Growth?
I mean, Surge Growth is on LinkedIn. We have a website, surgegrowthconsulting.ai. And I'm Susan Hunt on LinkedIn. You can find me pretty easily, I think. We'd love to, link up with any of you, definitely.
Thank you. That ends our podcast today. And we look forward to having you again sometime in the future.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was great.